Have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? It's basically the time you have for something, every activity expands to fill the container, to fill the time that you have. And so if you're wanting to make a change in your life or to grow in a certain area in your relationship with God or even just overall wellness, it's important to look at the things that are subtracting from your life, that are actually draining you and that are filling your container before you think about adding new things on, because it'll just lead to burnout. And then you might feel defeated and you might end up forgetting and not doing the thing that you want to do because your body is saying no, no, thank you. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of the life draining habits that I'm going to not do in this next year to come. I hope some of them resonate with you. And I would love to know, what are some of your life draining habits that you're going to let go of? So let me know if some of these resonate with you, and then comment below ones that you might be adding to your list or doing instead. I think we should go on a little walk as we unpack these. The first life-draining habit that I'm going to drop this year is to stop reacting to things, and instead of considering like, how can I fit this in, whether it's an invitation to something fun or invitation to more work or whatever it is, to not react and try to think, yeah, how can I do it, or how can I make this work and readjust my schedule, but really thinking about, Lord, what is actually the real invitation here? A lot of times the invitation is just to say no. Then I can actually thoughtfully respond to things. So it has been a habit for me to try to be victorious and be the person that does all the things and is really competent. And my old spiritual director used to say this to me. He said, a struggle and an actual bigger problem with people who have a lot of skill and tenacity is that they can be really confused about what they want to give themselves to. So some of my biggest Achilles heel or growth area has been really to focus and to say, what do I actually feel called to do? What do I want to do? What is God doing in me versus what am I just capable of? So not reacting, but actually being proactive and responding. It's not going to be easy. It's a habit. Habit means it's pretty ingrained. And so I'm going to have to actually learn what it means to unlearn that. And that could take a couple years, but that is one of my intentions. The second one, I'm gonna actually steal from a business book, the 80-20 principle. I've been reading it and it's been so helpful to not just think about in terms of business and how I spend my time at work, but also in my relationship with God, my relationship with my friends. There are certain friends that are more life-giving, or there are certain projects that I work on with work that actually the more I focus on the high value, to use the business language, high value versus low value tasks, the more I've actually found a flow, the more energy I've found, and I found like I have more life. I'm responding with more joy and vitality because I'm doing the things that actually make the biggest impact. So that the thing that life-draining thing that I'm going to let go of is ignoring the high value things and just doing the low value things, and figuring out what can I delete from my life that doesn't actually either serve me or help me grow in the ways that God is calling me to. And that stuff takes discernment sometimes, but actually being proactive and responding. It's not going to be easy. It's a habit. Habit means it's pretty ingrained. And so I'm going to have to actually learn what it means to unlearn that. And that could take a couple years, but that is one of my intentions. The second one, I'm gonna actually steal from a business book, the 80-20 principle. I've been reading it and it's been so helpful to not just think about in terms of business and how I spend my time at work, but also in my relationship with God, my relationship with my friends. There are certain friends that are more life-giving, or there are certain projects that I work on with work that actually the more I focus on the high value, to use the business language, high value versus low value tasks, the more I've actually found a flow, the more energy I've found, and I found like I have more life. I'm responding with more joy and vitality because I'm doing the things that actually make the biggest impact. So that the thing that life-draining thing that I'm going to let go of is ignoring the high value things and just doing the low value things, and figuring out what can I delete from my life that doesn't actually either serve me or help me grow in the ways that God is calling me to. And that stuff takes discernment. Sometimes we have to do some of the admin kind of simple tasks of life, whether that's going to the grocery store. Some people like going to the grocery store. I personally don't. There's some things that I don't outsource, some things that I really want to do or need to do, feel called to do. So that's going to look different for everybody, but focusing on the things that are more valuable first, and then the lower value things, either getting rid of them or actually outsourcing, asking for help for those things. So focusing on the things that really move the needle in my relationship with God, self, and others, or even work. So I'm excited for that one because that one seems like it's gonna have hopefully a lot more reward. The next one is making ridiculous rules for myself that I add to my life to force myself into making a change. It's so easy to make rules like, okay, I'm gonna not have carbs, or I'm just saying examples, I'm going to read my Bible 30 minutes a day, I'm going to do this XYZ. But when I make these ridiculous rules and or sign up for a ton of different programs, that's kind of my fun thing. There's a conference that sounds interesting, I'll do that, or I'll buy a book, or I'll join this group. But oftentimes I want to do too many of those things at once, and there are things vying for my attention. And so letting go of the life-draining habit of choosing to do the things that I'm going to be able to commit more of 100% to, or more of an 80% to. Because if I was working on different things in my life, I would give a lower percentage because I'm finite. I don't have all the time and capacity. Things come up. And so realizing when I'm overcommitting and choosing the things that are going to be more intentional, not creating these rules around myself like, okay, I have to read all this and attend these workshops, kind of blending two of these in together, overcommitting myself and making them more bite-sized, and then also not making all these rules that I have to then complete to fix myself or to move myself in the needle. Has anyone started like a workout plan in January and then 3 weeks in you're like, yeah, no, because your heart is not in it, or you're changing too many things? And change in your life takes effort. Sometimes it takes more effort than others. Some things we're more motivated for, but if we're not really connected to our why, if we're not really on board with making this change or this shift, it can just feel like more to-do stuff that can leave us feeling drained. Having abundant life, a life that is flourishing with God, is not about being drained. Yes, suffering can drain us. Things can happen in our lives that are just draining, and it's inevitable. But if there's any space in our life to have power to change that, or to not actively habituate that type of life, I'm all for that. The next life-draining habit of ignoring how I care for my body. That is one of the most simple things to move us to a more holistic and flourishing life, is to not overwork and be aggressive towards ourselves. And I think aggression towards ourselves can be feeding ourselves processed foods or not getting enough movement, ignoring our sleep, staying out late, maybe over drinking. All of those things have a detrimental effect on our bodies. They mess with our hormones, and even just simple things like that can be life draining. There are simple habits that we can change in our life to produce more peace. There was some study that even if you just walked for 30 minutes a day, like during lunchtime, the amount of stress and depression would be lowered, like, I think it was like 25%. I don't know, Google that. But I was like, this person was really credible that was talking about it. I was like, that's pretty incredible. Just getting out and taking a walk in nature if you can, and being able to pause and to slow down, get enough sleep, making sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep if you need 8 hours. Some people can't because of the seasons of their life, but sometimes we also put mental limits on ourselves. We make all these rules for ourselves. No, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'll do this. Well, why? We're living forever. Why do we need to be in a rush to accomplish more, to get up an hour earlier? Yeah, I mean, if you really have a goal in your life, getting up an hour earlier, sure. But I found that if that's chronic, those become life-draining habits because they become solidified. We ignore our needs, our physiological needs, and that is one thing that I'm going to stop doing and start paying more attention to. Setting my body and my mind and my heart, all those things up for success, if you will, to use a very business term, because I find that those are simple things that I can shift in my life that don't take a ton of effort. It can be an easy thing to lower our stress and to boost energy and to produce peace in our life. Okay, this is probably the hardest one that's gonna die hard, and I've been working on this for years and years and years, but it has gotten so much better, and that is to stop the life-draining habit of speaking aggressively towards myself. Being aggressive towards myself, which is with criticism, saying, you come on, or what are you thinking, or you're stupid, all of those subtle words. And you know what? I found that those words don't actually come up unless I actually pay attention to them. Usually what I'll feel is anxiety, or I'll feel this like feeling, or I'll want to get out of my own body, or want to distract myself, picking up my phone, whatever it is. It's stopping the habit of ruminating on things that I did wrong or beat myself up or trying to fix myself by myself. I want to go to God for those things. So it's a habit to speak negatively to me that I learned in childhood. It was my way of coping or trying to force myself to do stuff. And I find that that is not productive at all. And it's actually hurting my identity in Christ that I'm given. I'm a new creation and I am deeply loved. I'm letting go of that habit. That is a really hard one to do, but it can start by simply just, for me, one of the things that I found to do is just to write down the negative thought and then replace it with a thought that is more realistic. And then also asking the Lord, what are your thoughts to me about this? And any condemnation or any shame that you're getting, it's not from God. It's probably from the enemy and or from an old tape that's been looping in your head. And so at least that's for me. This is what I'm going to do. And I know that it is not easy to let go of some of those habits because some of those habits are from trauma. Some of them are from just, again, great years and years of practicing these things. If it didn't arrive in a day, it's probably not going to leave in a day or in a year. But I also want to see a 3-year from now version of me where I feel more peace, where I'm not as drained. I'm actually speaking kind to myself so that I'm more empowered to be more productive or to be more fruitful. I like that word better than productive in my life. I also want to say this one last thing about habits. Sometimes want to get married to, these are the habits that are good. These are the habits that are life draining. And then that's it. We want to close the chapter or bury it. But the thing is as we grow, certain habits that are life-giving at one season of our life can become draining. And things that were draining in one season can become more life-giving. Now, I'm not talking about the criticism one, but I think you understand what I'm saying. It's important to be open to the habits that we have developed. And your Christian life, last thing I'll say is your Christian life is not about habits. It's not for me. Having good habits is not what spirituality and a deep relationship with Christ is about. It's about my relational union with Christ. And so spiritual disciplines are wonderful. They definitely shape and form us. And we become something from how Aristotle says, you are what you repeatedly do. But Aristotle wasn't a Christian. So he's just saying a fact about life, that we do become those things. At the same time, fundamentally, who you and I are a new creation, and we have been hidden in Christ Jesus, as Colossians tells us. So I'd like to frame that conversation that way. I'm curious to hear about your life-draining habits you're going to let go of to inspire the community down below. All right, see you in the next video.